When I first started doing my PhD, I remember very distinctly being in a lecture. So at the Queensland Brain Institute, they used to run seminar series where a world-renowned expert would come along and give a lecture on a topic related to their field of expertise. And I remember I had a question in my mind, and I was quite young. I think I'd barely started my PhD. I might have even been only an honors student, so not even started my PhD at the time. And I was very interested in the topic, and sitting up at the back of the lecture hall, I raised my hand and asked a question. And I was young, I was nervous, I was in a room full of experts, and I asked this question, and it made absolutely no sense. It didn't come out right. I didn't even know what I was asking. And I had the entire lecture hall turn around, full of neuroscientists, full of experts, full of people who were more accomplished than me, who knew me personally or would come to know me over the course of my PhD. And everyone looked at me. And at that moment, I was absolutely filled with anxiety and dread. And at no point in my life can I remember wanting to melt into the floor more than at that moment, having an entire lecture hall full of people looking at you, thinking you're a complete idiot, and feeling like a complete idiot because I couldn't articulate my question. The reason I'm telling you this is that after that day, I made a commitment to myself, because there's really two ways I could have gone about it from there. One way is that I could refuse to ask any more questions for fear of looking like an idiot. And that's certainly, I think, that was the natural response. It's like, well, I'm never asking a question again. But when I sat and reflected, I realized that the best way I could improve was to not let a seminar or a lecture or a talk by an expert go by without asking a question, which meant I had to face that feeling every single time an expert came to give a talk. Now, this is a technique that I learned basically from my PhD supervisor. He was very good at asking incisive questions, and at almost every talk, he would ask a question. So I sat back and listened to the way that good questions were asked. And then in my own life, whenever I was in a situation, I would always ask a question. Always ask a question. This meant that whenever someone was telling me something, I was always thinking, well, what do I need to know to understand this better? Or what am I missing? Or what are the assumptions here? And so this skill turned out to be effectively a superpower. It is this skill, asking a question of anything and everything, that helps cut through bullshit and cut through understanding. Now, the danger of asking dumb questions is that you look like an idiot. But I realized that first, you look like an idiot, sure, because you don't know how to ask questions. But if you're in a room full of people, oftentimes there are many people who have the exact same question. So more often than not, as I got better and better at this skill, more often than not, people would come to me and say, oh, I'm so glad that you asked that question. I had the exact same question in my mind. Eventually, I actually became quite good at this. And I started to figure out what the right questions were, because in science, we are not interested in authority. We're not interested in what somebody says is truth. We're interested in why. We're interested in the assumptions. We're interested in understanding what that person thinks and why. And so this skill of asking a question, even if it's dumb, it really only has two outcomes. Either you look like an idiot and you learn something, or you look like an intelligent person and you learn something. But either way, if you fail, you learn. If you succeed, you learn. So it's the best way to learn, is to ask questions. Be unashamed. The superpower is that it gives you the ability to not worry so much about what people are going to think of you, okay? You seek understanding. And when you seek understanding, you will occasionally put people offside. They will think that you are an idiot, or they think that you are so many things. They will have many assumptions about you. But the truth is, by asking questions, by seeking understanding, you are much more likely to get to the truth than you are by just sitting there and accepting. So I have a challenge for anyone who's following along and who's interested in this. Ask a question. Ask. It doesn't matter if it's dumb. Some of the most instructive questions that I ever asked were questions that seemed dumb. Now, you may have to put up with other people having their own opinions of you, but how is that your business? What other people think of you? So in my view, one of the smartest things you can do is ask dumb fucking questions.